Well, a lot has changed from last week. Jeb Bush has now dropped out of the Republican presidential race. Donald Trump, he is riding the momentum of another victory, this time in South Carolina, and a big reception in Atlanta on Sunday. Joining us now, political analyst Bill Nigut to talk about all of it. Bill, good to have you here.
Hey, Ben.
Let's talk about this past weekend. Probably the biggest thing that came out of South Carolina was Jeb Bush, after spending nearly $100 million, is now out of the race.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Jeb Bush? It wasn't his year. He's not the candidate that his brother was. And he probably, I think most people would agree, is better at governing than he is at campaigning.
Well, and those may be the list of understatements of the day.
Yeah, right.
In terms of how he performed. I mean, with the amount of money he raised, to not even be able to finish fourth in any state so far was pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a terrible blow if you're a Jeb Bush person. It's also telling us something about the new economics of campaigning. You may not need to spend millions and millions of dollars on advertising if you have strong social media, if you know how to get on TV, as Donald Trump does. We may have learned something this cycle. Important
points there. Donald Trump he started to talk in South Carolina about putting this thing away over the next few weeks. Pretty interesting statement there. Meanwhile, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz both came out, finishing second, Rubio third, Cruz in South Carolina, and both of them declared victory.
Yeah.
It was pretty incredible to listen to both of them explain how they had outperformed.
Yeah, well, and of course, we are going to watch an interesting battle, I think, between Rubio and Cruz in the days ahead. Trump certainly comes into Georgia with enormous momentum, as you know, and he could very easily win this state, but Ted Cruz has built a very strong organization. He's got 5,000 people ready to go out and work on his behalf here in Georgia. Rubio doesn't have quite that kind of presence here. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Trump can beat Cruz or Cruz can push himself toward victory. I have a feeling Trump keeps going.
For all of his organization, Cruz seems to be slipping with each race that we come across. On top of that, I heard both Rubio and Cruz basically call this now a three-man race. Is that wishful thinking on their part, saying, please make it a three-man race, because we do better if it's a three-man race?
Well, you know, first of all, one of the things that comes out of South Carolina, as I'm sure you know, is evangelicals didn't vote for Ted Cruz. And if he can't win them here in Georgia, in Texas, in other southern states, that's real trouble for his campaign. I don't think it's quite a three-man race because John Kasich is going to stake his future on the Midwest, on Ohio, on Michigan, on states where he thinks his more moderate message may play well. That may be wishful thinking, but I don't think we can quite count him out yet.
And remember, Ohio is not a proportional delegate state.
That's right.
It's a winner-take-all state,
right.
So he has some advantage there.
That's right.
Let's talk about on the Democratic side, Bernie Sanders losing narrowly to Hillary Clinton. He lost by a wider margin than he did in Iowa. Where does he go from here? Because clearly we're going to have Super Tuesday, a week and a day from now, but he's probably not going to perform especially well there.
It doesn't look as though Georgia is going to be a great state for him, or other states in the South where there are large African-American voting bases. So he's focusing on Minnesota, on Colorado. I think Bernie Sanders hopes he can come away from March 1st just with strong showings and maybe a victory in a couple of those states outside of the South, so that he can move forward when the campaign does turn toward the Midwest and beyond.
And it's not like he's hurting for money. He continues to raise a lot of money from individual donors.
Lots of money, but as you well know, his delegate count is falling off dramatically.
But of course, that plays into superdelegates, and that's a whole other discussion about where they go with popular vote. Bill Nigut, always good to talk to you. Thanks so much for being with us.